Good morning all. Warm greetings from Satyabama Institute of Science and Technology, deemed to be University, Chennai. My name is Aaron Joni. Hope everyone is safe and well at home. We are extremely happy about the overwhelming responses. Thank you all for your tremendous support. On behalf of the organizing committee, I welcome you all to the live webinar on Introduction to Linux, Embedded Linux and its applications, organized by Department of Electronics and Communication Engineering, School of Electrical and Electronics Engineering at Satyabama Institute of Science and Technology, Chennai. I also welcome Mr. Joseph Anthony, who has joined us today to handle this session. It is indeed a unique pleasure and privilege for us to express our sincere thanks to our founder chancellor, Colonel Dr. JPR, and our Chancellor Ma'am, Marie Zeno Johnson, and our President Sir, Dr. Marie Johnson, for the continuous support and high endeavors in motivating us to conduct online webinars during this COVID-19 crisis situation. COVID-19 pandemic will be a catalyst in moving the world towards the digital future. Many questions come into our minds when pondering the use of Linux as an embedded system. Finding satisfactory answers to fundamental questions is an important part of building the system. Valuable answers will help to convince and that enables us to evaluate whether the initial expectations have been met. We could use the traditional segments of embedded systems such as aerospace, automotive systems, consumer electronics, telecom, and so on to outline the types of embedded Linux systems. But this would provide no additional information in this regard to the systems being designated. Because embedded Linux system may be structured alike regardless of the market system segment. It is classified that embedded system by criteria will provide the actual information about the structure of the system, size, time constraints, network ability, and the degree of user interaction. And today we have Mr. Joseph Anthony from Jasmine Infotech Limited. We welcome you, sir. Mr. Joseph Anthony has started his career as a systems executive in Mascon Global India Private Limited, Chennai. He has been associated with Identive Technologies India Private Limited for 11 years. At present, he is an associate consultant at Jasmine Infotech Limited, Chennai, since 2016. He has been a versatile leader with 20 years of experience in handling over strong technology teams and the ability to build and deliver quality products. He is an expert in automotive, AutoStar, RFID, NF domains. He is also experienced in requirement analysis, software architecture, design and development. He is well experienced in end-to-end product development, right from the design to the delivery and mass production for various embedded system softwares with a strong emphasis on product quality and schedule. He is also involved in the development of automation test tools, ISO certification tools, skilled in all phases of complete software testing lifecycle. We are very happy to have you here, sir, to deliver the talk on Introduction to Linux, Embedded Linux, and its applications. We welcome you, sir, once again. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, madam. So, hi, welcome to the webinar. I am Joseph Anthony from Jasmine Infotech. My primary field of work is embedded development in the field of automotive engineering with experience in RFID and access control. So, to tell a little about my company, Jasmine Infotech is an embedded software solutions provider. Founded in 1998, the company has built an extensive expertise in providing world-class services covering digital home, automotive engineering, testing, and product engineering services. We are a 600 strong team based out of Chennai, and we are growing fast. Jasmine's focus has always been on providing quality products and services and being a one-stop shop for embedded needs. We have created a client base which includes some of the top OEMs and Tier 1 companies across the globe. Jasmine is either a member or a partner in many of the industry standard forums like the CEA, Open Alliance, AutoSAR, Dolby, and Digital. You can find more details about the company in the web link we have provided here. The agenda for today's webinar is divided into two parts. The first part, we will talk about Linux, its architecture and the advantages of using Linux. And the next part is on embedded Linux. What is embedded Linux, why it is useful to learn it, and its various applications. We will also see some of the products using embedded Linux currently available in the market. To conclude, we will see what is AutoSAR and how embedded Linux is and will be beneficial in the automotive domain.
Mr. Joseph,
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt. Please, little bit you move closer to the speaker, sir. Your voice is we need little bit audible, sir.
Okay. Is it okay better now?
Yeah, that's fine, sir.
Okay. So let's start.
Yeah.
Okay. What is Linux? Developed by and released by Linus Torvalds. Linus Torvalds developed and released the first version of the Linux kernel in September of 1991 on the FTP servers of the Helsinki's University based in Finland. History goes that Linus originally wanted to name his project as FreeX, which is actually a portmanteau of free, freak, and X, which is a subtle reference to Unix. But one of the IT administrators named Ari Lemke did not like the name, so he instead kept the name as Linux as the name of the project while hosting it on the server. So the Linux kernel and the Linux OS are all released under open source licenses GNU GPL. The GPL license, one of the main constraints is that product released under GNU GPL should be free and all the source code available for modification and re-release by the users. This becomes one of the vital points for Linux growth over the years and in terms of becoming a stable and secure operating system. Linux is generally lightweight and less resource heavy, which is beneficial for home users who not always have the latest high performance processors and the graphics order. In fact, some of the recently released Linux OS can run on the old Pentium processors also and still run without much performance issues. The various Linux OSs are a result of the amalgamation of the various open source components layered on top of each other to give a customized OS solution to the users. Most of the Linux distros focuses primarily on stability and security of the OS compared to the user friendliness on which Microsoft is primarily focused on. Although in recent years, OSs like Ubuntu, Fedora have also improved their user interface vastly to be more user friendly. So Linux is distributed as various distributions or distros. Some of the popular Linux distros are Fedora, previously called Red Hat Linux, Ubuntu, OpenSUSE, Debian, and Mint. In fact, there are more than 250 Linux distros with active user community available on the internet. You can get a more comprehensive list and a link to all these distros at distrowatch.com. Linux operates in two distinguishable modes. They are the user mode and the kernel mode. Kernel mode, just a second, just need to enable the video here. Okay, sorry about that. Linux operates in two distinguishable modes. They are the user mode and the kernel mode. Kernel mode, also referred to as the system mode, is where the OS resides and operates. It contains the Linux core, the system utilities that are necessary for the smooth running of the OS. This is a privileged mode where the processes running have complete access to the memory available and can directly access the hardware there. All the critical operations of the OS take place in the kernel mode only. So it is very critical that when developing code to run in the kernel mode, the module has the potential to completely corrupt the OS also. So extreme care has to be taken to ensure that proper functioning of the module is tested and the stability is ensured. On the other hand, none of the above are possible in the user mode. This is the mode the users operate and where user applications reside and operate. Applications and processes that run in the user space do not have direct access to the memory space. They also cannot talk directly with the underlying hardware. The OS provides interfaces through libraries just like glibc to help the application achieve these goals. Let us see how all these various components in the Linux OS are organized. So at the bottom is the hardware that includes the central processing unit, the graphics processing unit, the various peripherals like the keyboard, mouse, display, and the Ethernet port. There are various types of CPU hardware available in the market for which the kernel is compiled. We have the Intel's x86 based CPU, the ARM based CPU, and the PowerPC, which till 2005 was the main processor for all of Apple's computers. So the Linux kernel forms the core of the operating system and sits on top of the hardware. It consists of many components, primarily the kernel, which takes care of the running of the OS, the various operations of the OS, the kernel modules, which extend the functionality of the kernel without having to update the kernel, and the device drivers, which are a type of kernel modules, which typically are loaded to extend support for new hardware connected to the CPU. There are different types of kernel available. There is the main Linux kernel developed and maintained by the Linux Foundation. They release the Linux kernel at regular intervals and maintain the kernel source code also. Its versioning and ensure the support of the kernel. Linus Torvalds is part of this foundation and still oversees all the approvals of the code that goes into the Linux kernel. So apart from this, the other types of Linux kernel available are, we have the Mac kernel, which is running on the Mac OS. We have the FreeBSD, which is a derivative of the Linux kernel. FreeBSD, however, is released not just as a kernel, but as a complete operating system and with a slightly different license called the permissive BSD license. On top of this, we have the system libraries, which provide the interface between the user mode and the underlying OS. Also, sitting here is the X system or the X window system, which is the basic framework on which graphic displays are built in the Linux environment. The Xorg Foundation, which releases the Xorg display server, is actually part of this, and X386 server is also based on the X system. Then we have the different shells which provide the user with the environment to interact with the system. These are like the command line prompt provided to the user. The most popular and common shells are the bash shell, the C shell, and the Korn shell, which is used in Debian. Now, on top of all this sits the desktop environment, which in itself consists of several components like the window manager, which is again a combination of Nautilus, Conqueror like file managers. Window managers provide the GUI for the users for visualization and display of contents and use. For example, how a window should be formed, how a button should look, and how they are to be handled. A file manager takes care of the available open windows and the desktop environment to ensure that they are saved and loaded across reboots and user login and log off sessions. Popular window managers are Metacity and Compass. And the popular desktop environments which are packaged with these window managers and file managers, the most popular are GNOME and KDE. An overall architecture can be shown like this. Uh, where when an application makes a system call, this system call is handled by the system call library, and based on this call, corresponding the interface in the kernel space is called, which actually takes care of executing the system call and providing the output for this. So, what are the advantages of this Linux? The first and foremost is that the Linux kernel is distributed with a GPL license, as is most of the other components of the Linux OS. This means that source code is freely available for everyone to use, modify, update, and redistribute to others. Due to this licensing model, anyone can download the components and customize it to their needs. In fact, that is how the various Linux distros are created. Almost all the development and maintenance of the core kernel and the OSs done through the community development and support. And Linux has a very large user base and an active developer community. So updates and patches are very regular. Any vulnerable found is fixed at a very fast rate. OS distros like Fedora and Ubuntu have a regular OS release schedule itself. A major release is made every 6 months, and the update to the existing OS is also easy. Here we can see the last 4 releases of Ubuntu, which generally occurs during the month of April and in October. The next advantage is the stability. Due to the regular updates and large community support, the OS as it is today is very stable. Linux-based servers are known to have a 99% uptime compared to lower uptimes of other OSs. Now, security. Linux inherits the Unix discretionary access control or the DAC model. To provide a brief overview, Linux DAC allows the owner of an object like file to set the security policy for that object, which is why it's called a discretionary stream. As a user, you can, for example, create a new file in your home directory and decide who else can actually read or write to this file. Here we can actually have shown a sample here. For example, for the file which is created by the user named Stuart, the read-write access and the executable access is provided by default to the user. Now, the second set is for the group under which the user Stuart is. The third part is actually for others who are not in the group of Stuart. So this is the user provides a more granular level control to the user in terms of security. So there is also the super user, an all-powerful entity which protects the OS level changes by blocking all users and providing only the super user to make these changes. So some of the commands which require the super user privileges are the change password, the fdisk command which is used for partitioning the hard disk, and the lsof command which lists all the open files at that time and the processes which use them. So other features like the security enhanced Linux based access control, a comprehensive and stable network stack including the IP security implementation, which helps in the authenticity, the confidentiality and the integrity of the IP networking. Due to its open source nature, Linux has a very large and active developer community, which supports the development, maintenance, and improvement of the various Linux components. This makes it easier for both an individual user or as a corporation to use and get support easily. Even the commercial support packages of the Linux distros are very affordable compared to that of a Windows or a Mac system. So due to the modularity of the various components, Linux is highly customizable and helps in creating very specific OS packages, targeting specific purpose and user requirements. This makes it an ideal candidate with where small hardware with very focused requirements and an OS to run on them. So these features pave way for embedded Linux as the natural path forward. Due to its flexibility, embedded Linux can be created to fit into a very small ROM space, like 500 KB, and also a very minimal RAM requirement. Devices running embedded Linux are often considered as applications, considering their uses in the real world scenarios. So, why is embedded Linux a good choice? Along with the advantages of Linux mentioned above, here are some which applies to embedded Linux also. There's a wide choice of CPUs and hardware available in the market at affordable prices. The advantages of embedded Linux over proprietary embedded OSs is that the availability of multiple suppliers for the various hardware, the development of software and their support. Hardware with ARM-based CPU, Blackfin, Xscale, MIPS-based processor like the Texas TX system from Toshiba, PowerPC, x86 PC hardware, all have very good software support and active communities. To develop applications for embedded Linux hardware, there is no need to actually learn a new language and become an expert in embedded Linux programming. Existing languages like C, C++, and Java can be used as is and ported easily. There are many cross compilers available which provide support to generate the binaries for the various hardware mentioned earlier. So the availability of entire Linux tool chains, portable libraries can be added as another advantage. Like, what is a tool chain in the context of embedded Linux here? A tool chain is a set of unique software development tools that can be used to create a binary for the intended target hardware. A typical embedded tool chain consists of a cross compiler and a linker to create the binaries for a specified target. For example, the Scratchbox project provides the support for toolchain for ARM and x86 architectures. Linaro provides the toolchain for ARM Cortex targets. Embedded Linux, just like the regular Linux, has a large and active developer community, which not only provides support but is also active in extending the support for new hardware and creating customizable solutions. So due to this, updates to an OS or tool chain is very regular and up to date. Due to the licensing model of the embedded Linux systems, either it is the Linux kernel is actually released under the GPL. Other components are released under LGPL or BSD MIT based licenses. Because of these licensing models, there is no royalty or licensing fees for using the kernel and the OS. The source code for the complete OS and most of the tool chains are freely available for download and used by anyone. As a single user or a corporation, this by itself reduces many licensing issues faced with proprietary software. So embedded Linux and in general, Linux has a very good online resource providing good documentation and tutorials. This is in part a reason for the fast growth of and adaptation of embedded Linux. So let's see some of the online resources available. This elinux.org is a wiki-based site which documents and updates all the information related to embedded Linux. So as I told before, distrowatch.com is a one-stop resources site which maintains the latest updates of the various Linux distros that are available in the market. Kernel.org is maintained by the Linux kernel organization. This site is the primary source of the release of the Linux kernel. Yocto project. This is a collaboration project which aims to create a Linux distribution regardless of the target architecture. We have the automotivelinux.org. This is automotive grade Linux, which is an open source collaboration between various automakers to create an open platform standard for the connected car. This aims to accelerate the development of a standardized package with Linux at its core. And we have the GNU.org, supported by the Free Software Foundation. GNU Linux is completely free operating system based on the Linux kernel. The GNU Foundation also has its own kernel called the HERD. You can check the link for more details. So there are many Linux devices that are powered by embedded Linux. They are primarily used in industrial automation, navigation equipments like GPS devices, and then medical devices also. So apart from this, in the networking field, equipments like routers, switches also run on a modified version of the Linux kernel. The Linksys routers, like the ones shown here, run on a modified version of the Linux kernel. So in consumer products, set-top boxes the UView streaming device, the March companies in network series, the TiVo streaming platform are all running a modified version of the embedded Linux, and the kernel version are about 2.6. So the gaming console, the Pandora, actually runs Angstrom Linux to power its hardware. The popular ebook reader, Kindle from Amazon, runs a modified version of the Linux kernel. It actually uses Java apps to actually create the UI for this device. And the most popular and the successful variant of the embedded Linux software is the Android OS. Android is a mobile OS based on a modified Linux kernel, primarily focusing on the touchscreen based mobile devices. Developed and maintained by the OpenSet Alliance with the primary contributor as Google. It is provided as an open source software. This has become the most popular mobile operating system in the world now. It is currently available for ARM-based processors as well as Intel-based x86 processors. As of April 2020, more than 70% of the mobile's smartphone market is actually taken over by the Android devices. There are many boards available in the market which users can actually buy to gain embedded Linux experience. You have the Raspberry Pi, which is developed by the UK-based Raspberry Pi Foundation. This targets schools in developing countries to learn basic computer science. That was the initial focus of this foundation, but now it has actually transcended its initial goals and has become the most popular boards available for embedded Linux development. We also have the Beagle board. This is developed by Texas Instruments and is also used in education institutions for teaching open source hardware and software capabilities. Similarly, just like the hardware, we have the software also. BusyBox is considered as software suite, which actually packages many Linux utilities and tools into a single executable file. You can check the busybox.net for more details on this. MobiLinux is an embedded Linux OS which was created for targeting the mobile devices. And as before, we have the Android, which is primarily focusing on the touchscreen mobile devices. Now, how does the automotive industry benefit from embedded Linux platform? Automotive industry has created a standardized architecture called AUTOSAR, which is a short form for Automotive Open System Architecture, to create a standardized software for the electronics control units or ECUs present in the automobiles. It is created by a group of automotive companies, suppliers, and even educational institutions which are part of this consortium. Before we move on, what is an ECU? Uh, an electronic control unit or a ECU is any embedded system in automotive electronics that controls one or more of the electrical systems or subsystems available in a vehicle. Uh, some of the examples here are the door control unit, which controls the opening and closing of the doors. Um, the electronic power steering unit, the human and machine interface, which is basically the dashboard screen which is interacting with the user, the speed control unit, the telematic control unit, brake control unit, and battery management systems. So some of the objectives of AUTOSAR are standardization of interfaces, where the developers can actually focus on the application layers and set up callbacks with the underlying OS, which provides a consistent and standard interface for the application developers to develop their applications. So this reduces the development time. So once the software is developed for a particular ECU, the reuse of the ECU becomes simpler as the development time is reduced due to the reuse of the AUTOSAR software. And due to this standardization of the interfaces and the API, the hardware layer is abstracted from the user application, which reduces the dependency in the design and development of the standardized software. Since many of the code generation part in the AUTOSAR is moved into the configuration phase and not in the development phase, the software itself can be reused and hence reduces the overall development time for further projects. Reuse of already tested software also reduces validation costs and improves the quality of the software. Now, companies like Vector have created their own AUTOSAR stack in compliance with this standard. There are many platforms available based on this standard, of which embedded Linux-based stack is a popular one. Cross-platform development, compilation to the specified target platform are all existing features that are used in the development of this stack. Here, the existing AUTOSAR standard supports embedded ECUs in a vehicle whose functionality normally does not change over the lifetime of a vehicle. To provide an example, the cruise control feature in a car requires multiple ECUs interaction to work smoothly. So once the user selects the cruise control mode, the underlying AUTOSAR configuration takes care of getting the current speed, get the obstacle information from the corresponding sensors, and set the speed in the engine ECU. Apart from this, it also has to update the display ECU with the correct speed info. So going into the future, where adaptive learning, environment recognition, and intelligent handling are becoming part of the vehicle functions. For example, to handle automated driving from a source to a destination, this current standard will not be sufficient to support this ever-expanding need. So the AUTOSAR consortium has created the AUTOSAR adaptive platform, which extends the existing platform to better support the new requirements. Embedded Linux also provides a POSIX standard OS, which helps in providing a stable and secure platform on which these new standards can be adapted. Apart from this, the automotive industry is also working on a new standard using the Linux itself, called the automotive grade Linux. It is actually a collaborative open source project that is bringing together automakers, suppliers, and technology companies to accelerate the development and adoption of an open platform from the ground up that can serve as the de facto industry standard with Linux as its core. So for more details, you can check the links provided in the slides. So that concludes the webinar today. Thank you, and we can take questions or queries if any.
Dear participants, you can unmute yourself and raise your questions.
If you have any queries,
Yes.
you can also get in touch with the organizers. I can provide an update over mails also.
Okay. Okay, we have come to the end of the session. Thank you, participants. Now I call upon one of the organizers, Dr. E. Anadevi, Assistant Professor from ECE Department, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Thank you, ma'am. On behalf of the management and the Department of CE, Satyabama Institute of Science and Technology, we express our profound and sincere gratitude to you, sir, for giving an excellent coverage to Introduction to Linux, Embedded Linux, and its application. The lecture has been quite interesting, educative, and illuminative. On behalf of the organizing committee, I also thank the management of Satyabama Institute of Science and Technology, the Dean, School of Electrical and Electronics, Dr. N.M. Nandira, Dr. T. Ravi, the Head of Department of ECE, for giving us this wonderful opportunity to conduct this online webinar. I also thank all the participants for the enthusiastic participation. Thank you all.
Thank you, dear ma'am. Thank you, dear participants.